Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I formally declare open this council meeting of the Colac Otway Shire on the 29th of April 2025. We'll start with the opening prayer. Almighty God, we seek your blessing and guidance in our deliberations on behalf of the people of the Colac Otway Shire. Enable this council's decisions to be those that contribute to the true welfare and betterment of our community. Amen. I'd like to start this afternoon by acknowledging the traditional custodians and lawmakers of this land, their elders past and present, and welcome any descendants here today. Please be advised that this meeting is recorded and live streamed with the exception of confidential matters. This includes the public participation sections of meetings. The live stream recording of this afternoon's meeting will be available on the website as soon as practicable. By participating in open meetings, individuals consent to the use and disclosure of the information they share at the meeting, including any personal and/or sensitive information. I note that 6 councillors are present, and we have an apology from Councillor Hudgell, who's unable to be here today. I'd just like to also acknowledge that it's the CEO's last meeting with us, and we thank her for her time at Colac Otway Shire. So thank you, Anne. I move on to the 3.3, the confirmation of minutes. I propose that we move to confirm the minutes of the council meeting held on March 25, 2025. Do I have a mover? Move to Councillor Crickard, seconder, Councillor Potter. I'll now put it to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Potter, Councillor Dude, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Shrams, carried 6-0. Let's move on to declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? Andrew.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I have a material conflict of interest with item 9 of urgent business.
Thank you. I have a conflict of interest on item 6.1, the planning anomalies relating to only 2 items that are both in Polworth Street. Is a general conflict that I live in Polworth Street. No other conflicts of interest? Thank you. We now move on to question time. Question time is an opportunity to ask questions of council in a respectful manner. Please extend due courtesy to councillors and officers when addressing council in this meeting. We reserve the right to disallow questions that breach our governance rules. 30 minutes is allowed for question time at council meetings. Community members wishing to ask questions of council by video conference were requested to register their intention before 5 p.m. on Thursday the 24th of April 2025. No requests were received. Please note that we have a large number of written questions for today's meeting, and some of these contain lengthy background statements. I want to remind the gallery that question time is for succinct questions in form and character, and that our rules only provide for making short, succinct statements as absolutely necessary to provide context. Accordingly, I have asked general managers to abbreviate as necessary the background information and read questions in full. In addition, where necessary, like questions may be grouped together and a single answer provided. Councillors receive questions in writing, and forgive me if I get someone's name wrong. Callan Sass, James Judd, Stanley Kennett, Graham Costin, Jane Gross, Bill Gross, Jeff Cook, Irene Pagram, Prava Cuddy, and Tim Cobb. These questions will be read out and a response will be provided by the relevant member of the executive management team. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Mayor. First question is from Callan Sass. Many years ago, the Apollo Bay Senior Citizens, represented by Apollo Bay Probus, which was disbanded in April of 2019, donated the hall to the community. The name was changed to the Apollo Bay Community Hall to better reflect the hall's committee and users, as the hall is used by the whole community and the committee members are of all ages. Would it be possible for the council to officially change the name to Apollo Bay Community Hall? This would merely be a change to reflect the name used by the community when referring to this hall. Response. Considering the history of the facility, it would be important to undertake community consultation when considering a name change of the Apollo Bay Senior Citizen Centre. Council has resolved to consider including this as an action in its 2025-26 annual plan.
The next question is from Mr James Judd. It's a two-part question. Part one, has the Colac Otway Shire Council considered the bite in the tail of the state government cap on certain council charges? And under the current state regulations, could the Colac Otway Shire Council continue to exist if we have a marked property devaluation and landholders found the costs too high to pay council rates and charges? The response, yes, council could continue to operate if ratepayers found that they were having difficulty in paying their rates. There are measures that are currently in place to help, and they can contact council to discuss further.
The next question is from Stanley Kennett. Will the Colac Otway Shire Council introduce laws that dog walking is to be prohibited within 20 metres of the Colac Hospital, prohibited within 20 minutes of all schools in Colac, prohibited within 20 metres of the Colac Central Business District? And the response is, Council does not have a current intention to introduce these restrictions. Councils are responsible for developing a domestic animal management plan which promotes responsible pet ownership and the welfare of dogs and cats in the community. These plans also aim to protect the community and the environment from nuisance dogs and cats. The plan is currently being reviewed with a new updated plan to be approved by Council no later than December 2025. We'd encourage you to take advantage of opportunities for public feedback into the development of this plan, which is the appropriate forum for Council to consider any concerns about dog behaviour. The next question is from Graham Costin, and there was a lengthy preamble to this question, which I'll just summarise as follows. Mr Costin had written several paragraphs drawing attention to the environment values of the Barham River Paradise Picnic Reserve, noting that Council's recently undertaken some improvements at the reserve. He also noted that on a recent plant identification walk arranged by Apollo Bay U3A, a number of environmental weeds were identified at the reserve. And his question is that, noting the draft 2025-26 budget proposes $3.3 million for the management of Council's parks, gardens and reserves, will Council commit to using some of that proposed budget allocation to A, repair the walking path to the Platypus Pool, and B, to undertake an annual weed control program? And the response is, thank you, Graham, for raising those concerns with Council. Our Environment and Sustainability team will consider whether the weeds at Paradise would be candidates for its annual weed management program, and our Services and Operations team will assess the need for maintenance of the walking path to the Platypus Pool.
Mr Costin has also made a number of statements regarding a proposed trail between Apollo Bay and Skeens Creek, including the original feasibility study undertaken in 2018, the project funded through the City Deal program, and funds set aside previously in reserve by Council to support development of the trail. Mr Costin has asked the following questions which relate to a trail link on the Lambwood side of the Great Ocean Road from Skeens Creek to link to the existing Oceanside Apollo Bay Coastal Trail just south of Wild Dog Creek. I'll read all the questions out and then respond. 1. Was the full background above provided to councillors before Council resolved to reallocate the $200,000 reserve in February 2025? Why wasn't that decision made more openly and specifically per Council's February 2019 resolution? Why weren't the community trail advocates and local residents consulted before the decision? Noting the trail is not listed in Council's published list of federal election advocacy priorities, is Council actively advocating in any way to federal election candidates for this trail link? If Council has advocated for the trail, what is it advocating for? i.e. what conceptual design is proposed? Is sufficient road reserve available to build a trail? And what level of funding is being requested? Will Council include an amount in its 25-26 budget to progress planning for the trail per its past commitments and increase the chances of a successful outcome to its advocacy? Response. Council had maintained an allocation for the Apollo Bay to Skeens Creek Trail in reserve for many years, without a clearly defined purpose for use of the funds. Funds held in discretionary reserves should have an intended purpose and use. The funds previously held in reserve since 2018 for the Apollo Bay to Skeens Creek Trail had no clear intended purpose, and therefore Council determined to utilise these funds for other needs. Councillors were provided with sufficient information to consider this matter and didn't consider there to be a requirement to undertake community consultation in this instance. The reallocation of the $200,000 was undertaken in an open council meeting to ensure transparency about the consideration and decision. Council continues to advocate for a pedestrian and cycling link between Apollo Bay and Skeens Creek in accordance with the resolutions at its March 2023 and December 2024 meetings. Council has written to relevant state and federal government ministers and local members of parliament to advocate for safe pedestrian and cycling links, either shared or separate, to connect Skeens Creek to the existing off-road pathway from Wild Dog Creek to Apollo Bay. Next question is from the Apollo Bay Community Voice, Jane Gross. Question 1. The Colac Herald recently asked the Council for its wish list of priority projects ahead of the forthcoming federal election. The list includes around $15 million for the Colac East Road upgrade, a Colac bike park, and host of community and sports facility upgrades in Colac, and around $2 million in Apollo Bay for reconstruction of 3 residential streets, Ramsden Avenue, Montrose Avenue and Coston Street. The Apollo Bay Community Voice understands the importance of Council Road refurbishments. However, given that over the past 2 years, Apollo Bay Community Voice has highlighted the 2 main issues facing Apollo Bay community sustainability as affordable housing for key workers and childcare to complete the early years hub. Why is Council not seeking federal assistance for these much needed projects? Response. Council continues to advocate for outcomes relating to affordable housing and is confident that our sustained advocacy efforts, particularly to the Victorian Government, will result in a greater level of affordable housing for our coastal communities, including Apollo Bay. In regards to childcare, Council continues to work with its partners in the South West Victoria Alliance to advocate for improved childcare outcomes in the lead up to the federal election. Childcare has been a priority for the Alliance, and through this partnership, solutions to childcare access across the region have been highlighted to candidates in the upcoming federal election.
Question 2 from the Apollo Bay Community Voice. The Apollo Bay Community Voice is grateful for the opportunity to comment on the 2025-2029 Draft Revenue and Rating Plan and has sent a detailed submission for your consideration. There is concern in the community that all the increase in the overall general rate is within the 3% cap. The Council's proposal to reduce the rural farm rate will mean a significant increase in the residential and commercial industrial rates for the Shire. We therefore ask how many residential, commercial and industrial rateable properties are located along the Great Ocean Road, dependent on tourism, not agriculture, close brackets, that will be negatively impacted by a farm rate reduction, and how more broadly, given that Council currently receives 30% of its rate revenue from the coast, how much more in both percent and dollar terms will be collected from the coast if the proposed change is adopted. The response: it's not possible to determine how many residential, commercial, industrial rateable properties located along the Great Ocean Road and that are dependent on tourism and not agriculture will be negatively impacted by a farm rate reduction. The draft 25-26 budget has the proposed rating differentials in it, so it outlines the dollar amount that will be collected from the balance of Shire if the proposed rating differentials are adopted.
The next question is from Bill Gross, and there was some preamble to this question, which I'll just summarise as follows. Bill's referred to the community emissions profile sourced for the figures used concerning agricultural sourced carbon emissions detailed in the Council's Climate Change Action Plan, and highlighted that the emissions shown for 22-23 indicate a lower level of emissions from the agricultural sector. So the question is, regarding that profile in the Climate Action Plan, do Council officers agree that it's logical to assume that the farming proportion is now likely to have since increased significantly, given the reduced domestic, industrial and commercial carbon outputs in the Shire, resulting from the huge uptake in solar, wind and battery storage since the 2021 calculation, and this increase in the farming proportion is likely to continue with future growth in renewable energy sources? It's further asked that what possible reason could Council provide to justify removing this well-evidenced statistic from the Climate Change Action Plan? The response is that it's likely that emissions from the farming and other sectors of the economy will have changed since 22-23. These are the most recent figures on the Snapshots website. The notice of motion has been proposed by a councillor and will be debated by council today at the council meeting. It's not appropriate for officers to comment on the merit of the motion itself. The next question is from Mr James Judd. It's noted that the Colac Otway Shire Council in the proposed budget for 25-26 council year is to further reduce its spend on infrastructure renewal. What impact will this reduction have on the renewal of footpaths in the entire municipality, plus the upgrade of all existing drainage systems? When in some old residential areas, nothing has been done to improve drainage since the last major flood event in Colac over 10 years ago. Do not forget the highway west of Colac proper has been blocked by flood multiple times in some years. And the response is, the amount allocated for renewal of footpaths in the draft 2025-26 budget will enable all required renewal of footpaths to occur for this financial year based on the results of asset condition assessments. Drainage renewal also occurs based on priority arising from condition assessments, with some funding allocated over time to upgrade the drainage network to address flooding risk. And it's noted that this financial year, $80,000 was allocated to upgrade stormwater drains in Colac, and a significant upgrade is currently occurring to the Irwellipi Drainage Reserve at Eliminite.
The next group of questions are from James Judd. Mr Judd sent a series of questions over 3 separate submissions, so they've all been grouped together. They effectively relate to timeframes around exhibiting of documents and when timeframes effectively start. The questions also I think Siri was capturing it. The questions also relate specifically to the process for the draft revenue and rating plan and the draft 2026 budget, which is before council today. One response will be provided a series of questions by Mr Judd. The response is that the recommendation today in relation to the draft 25-26 budget is for the public consultation period to be no less than 28 days from the initial public notice. The public notice will be on council's website, local papers, and on social media. If adopted, an appropriate closing date for submissions will be put in place to give effect to the resolution. The exhibition for the draft revenue and rating plan was for 4 weeks from the 1st of April and closes today. The submissions made in relation to the draft revenue and rating plan will be provided to a submissions committee meeting on the 13th of May 2025. The decision in relation to the revenue and rating plan will be made at the May council meeting in advance of the decision in relation to the 25-26 budget. The proposed rating differentials have been incorporated into the draft budget at this stage. Officers will continue to ensure that the appropriate amount of time is provided for the community to make submissions on those matters that are exhibited and the period starting from when the notice is given.
The next question is from Jeff Cook. I refer to the notice of motion by Councillor Buchanan. Firstly, there's been new information available to council that means that the statement that 48% of total emissions for the Shire comes from agriculture is no longer a fact? Question mark. Secondly, could removal of this fact from the Climate Change Action Plan potentially hinder council being successful in funding opportunities for farmers wishing to reduce their emissions? Thirdly, why should a small grant program to undertake tree planting only be available to farmers and not the broader community who may wish to plant trees in parks, playgrounds and community facilities? The answer, the Snapshot Climate website, which was used to source the agriculture emission figures for the Council's Climate Change Action Plan in 2023, have been updated with figures relevant to the 22-23 year, which indicate agricultural emissions represented 46% of community emissions in that year, down from 48% the previous year. The notice of motion has been proposed by a councillor and will be debated by council at today's council meeting. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not appropriate for officers to comment on the merit of the motion.
Next question, series of questions is from Irene Pagram. So bear with me for a second, sorry. Given that our citizenship ceremony and community awards are held on other dates at recognised community events such as Kana, why would councillors wish to change to holding these events on Australia Day 2026 and each year following on Australia Day? Why would council seek to use rate revenue to compel events officers and or other council staff to hold an event at the Lake Colac foreshore, such as, but not limited to, a festival, market, music event, community barbecue, when it is clear that key stakeholder groups and many community members, regardless of their personal ancestry, do not choose to celebrate on 26th of January? What would happen if all affected staff chose to take their leave entitlement on that gazetted public holiday rather than be forced to support a day that many associate with grief and loss? There is the alternate suggestion that council invites expressions of interest for community groups to host or co-host the event. I note that applications for event grants for activities in 25-26 closed on the 11th of April 2025 and that late applications would not be accepted. Why, when Colac Otway Shire Council proudly acknowledges in print and at public events the Gulidjan and Gadabanud peoples, past, present and emerging, as the traditional custodians of the Colac Otway region, would councillors believe that to simply note that many community members, regardless of their personal ancestry, do not choose to celebrate Australia Day on the date set by the federal government respects all community members' views? Response. The matter of activities on Australia Day is in today's meeting agenda for consideration by councillors, so it would not be appropriate for officers to make comment about this matter.
The next question is from Prabha Kadi, and it says, at the February meeting, the Mayor deferred the debate on Australia Day celebrations for, amongst other reasons, the community to be given the opportunity to address the Council on the topic of Australia Day. I notice that there is a notice of motion proposed for the April meeting where councillors are being asked to decide on this issue without the promised opportunity for the community to address Council. Could the Council please defer any decision on this topic until the community has been given that opportunity? Perhaps as a show of good faith that the respect of alternative views mentioned in the Mayor's notice of motion is genuine and heartfelt. Response. The notice of motion re Australia Day will be discussed today by councillors and it would not be appropriate to comment on the matter beforehand. A second question from Mr Cuddy. With regard to Graham Costin's question at the last meeting regarding the timeframes for presenting questions for council meetings, the Manager Governance undertook to list it for consideration when the governance rules are next reviewed. My question is, if a governance rule such as the above does not serve the interests of the community, why not change it before the next meeting? After all, if our car breaks down between services, we would not keep it in the garage until the next annual service, would we? Response. The change to governance rules requires a resolution of council to exhibit draft changes to the document and a subsequent public exhibition period. This would generally occur as part of an overall review of the rules, and we have not set a time frame for that yet.
Next question comes from Tim Cobb. Previous years' rating structure reviews, council provided a detailed analysis of options considered, their impacts. I'll start that again. In previous years' rating structure reviews, council has provided a detailed analysis of options considered, their impacts and a full consultation period. Why did council decide this time to reject transparency and risk proper governance by proposing significant changes while providing minimal analysis, no justification for changes whatsoever, and a time frame too short to comply with council's own standards for consultation? Historic council data shows that the proportion of total rate revenue coming from farmers has fallen significantly over the last 15 years, open brackets from 29% to 25% of total, close brackets, with an increased burden borne by residential property and businesses. Why therefore does council now propose to slash the farm rate differential by 13%, open brackets 75 to 65%, close brackets, transfer even more burden to residential ratepayers and renters when council has declared a housing crisis. In response, information was provided to assist with outlining the proposed changes to the rating and differential framework and their impacts. Additional information and some analysis was provided during the consultation period on Council's website using data from the 24-25 year to further assist in demonstrating the impacts of the proposed changes to the two differential rating categories. The rationale for the proposed changes was outlined in the report that sought endorsement for the draft revenue and rating plan that went to Council at its meeting in March 2025. Also outlined in the report was the timeline that was required to ensure the revenue and rating plan was able to be exhibited, submissions considered and the plan adopted, all prior to the adoption of the 25-26 budget. As can be seen through the previous budget documents, total value of rural farm property CIVs has increased significantly each year for the last 5 financial years.
We have a group of questions from Mr Costin, which relate to the Municipal Monitor's report, and specifically the actions of the previous council in relation to setting rates. Among other things, Mr Costin opposes the assertion that council adopted budgets with rates set below the fair rate cap in each year to the detriment of the sustainability of the organisation. We will take these questions on notice, but in short, the Monitor's report is prepared independently for the Minister. Many of these questions are not matters for council, but would perhaps be better directed to the Minister. We will, however, be seeking clarification from the state as to whether there is any avenue for addressing any factual errors that may or may not be in the report.
Thank you. We now move on to questions from the gallery. As per the governance rules, we've sought registration for questions from the gallery. We have a number of questions here. If we could have Yvonne Francis, please.
Thank you, Mayor Schramm. My question bears a strong link to a previous question that was handled on notice, and that might assist with the answer. Would the Colac Otway Shire consider another strategy for providing youth accommodation than sleeping in old garages to shelter those coming to work here, instead of allowing the former preschool and teachers' units become another eyesore like the abandoned male toilets opposite the rear of the top pub? For example, renovating the teachers' units and the former preschool in McLaughlin Street. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Anne Surin.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks for the question. In regards to the former preschool, Council's got a position on providing that back to the community through a trust that's just been established, and I understand that's in the final throes of occurring, so that's a great outcome for the community. In regard to the Department of Education flats in Nelson Street, my understanding is that they're still being used, but happy to follow that up with the local school to see what the status of that is. But that would be a department decision, not a council decision.
Thank you, Mr Surin. Now call for, is it Linny Munro? Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, just if you could step up to the lectern, just into the microphone, thank you. State your name and
Good afternoon, everyone. Now I'm a long-term resident here in Apollo Bay, and I've always been in tourism. That is how we make our living here. Now I'm at retirement age, my husband and I, and we have a short-term rental in our superannuation fund. Now, a lot of people that live here are like me. We make our living out of tourism, and we do have short-term rentals. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a living. Now, we're already paying a higher land tax to the state government. we're paying a 7.5% short-term rental tax to the state government.
Do you have a
And now you're
question, Linda?
proposing a higher rate
Yeah,
for
can,
us.
Can we just get to a question? Chair, Mayor, yeah. If we can just ask a question, thank you. Get to the question, please. Thank
I
you.
just want to know why you think it's a great idea to put the rates up on short-term rentals.
Thank you, Mr. Tenney.
Through you, Mayor. The submissions process on the revenue and rating plan is still open. It does close of business tonight, but I'm sure if you still wanted to make a submission to that process, we would accept it right through to the end of today. So that's the appropriate forum to voice these concerns and issues through.
Thank you. Rod Beecroft, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Just a couple of silly questions in relation to rates. Essential Services Commission states that the Shire can only put the rates up 3%, and we understood it was going to be greater than that. And the other part was, why does the ratepayers, householders, have to bear the burden of the reduction by the Shire on the farm rate?
Thank you. Answer from Mr. Tenney, thanks.
Thanks through you, Mayor. So the rating structure is a pretty complex one, but the Essential Services Commission recommended to the state government an increase in the rate cap. The state government set that at 3%, and that 3% relates to the overall increase in the rating revenue that council is able to collect, and then the rating and revenue strategy works out how that, or shows how that's divided up amongst the 6 different differential rating categories. And so any change to one of those differential rating categories gets picked up or down, gets picked up by the other categories. So that's how that's been articulated through the draft plan and that process and the information that's been provided.
Thank you. Peter Jacobs, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Peter Jacobs is my name. I live at Separation Creek. My question is in regard to the councillors making a decision today on Stanway Drive, making it into a highway. My question is, in the committee forum before, we raised items. I read in the agenda, our submissions were not fully included, and the items that we requested were not in the agenda. Why is that? And the other thing, I have concerns because the councillors would not be fully aware of what our concerns are when making it into a highway. So my question is, why in the briefing, the summary in the agenda today, those items were not included, and therefore the councillors would not be aware.
Thank you. I'll have an answer from General Manager Andrew Tenney, thanks.
Through you, Mayor. Thanks, Mr. Jacobs. And so all those submissions that were received as part of the public consultation process were provided to councillors, and they've seen all the submissions and the issues that have been raised. And I gather some of the issues that you're referring to are the safety aspects of the road and things like that.
Yeah, there are 3 or 4 issues.
Yeah, there's a number of issues
included. Yeah,
that's right. And so all those issues and those submissions have been provided for councillors, and so that's part of their consideration in making the decision today.
All right. So they'd be fully aware of what we are asking.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Carlin Sass. Gone. Okay. Thank you. Jane Gross. Thanks. You didn't? No, I haven't. Oh, okay. Thank you. Elizabeth Ryan. Thank you. If we could just get to a question, please, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, sorry. My first question, I have raised this before, is why are customer reference numbers routinely issued, and why are contact methods, e.g. email, ignored? And I'd like to tell everybody, I actually got a rates final notice. I'm a dairy farmer. To be told that you haven't paid your rates is pretty intimidating, and then get a phone call from one of your officers at 6:15 2 nights later on a mobile number that I didn't recognise is pretty intimidating and unfair.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I have a response from General Manager Andrew Turney. Thank you.
Thanks through you, Mayor. So, Ms Ryan, yes. So the phone call was made because we understand what the implications of getting such a notice was, and your contact with council was expressing your absolute concern over getting that notice. There was an issue with our system that generated a number of notices incorrectly, and you're one of them, and we were determined to contact all those people as soon as possible to put their mind at ease that they had been issued with those notices incorrectly, and there'd be no further action and to disregard that. You have expressed preferences in the way that you wanted to be communicated with through council. The officer at that time wasn't aware of your preferences, and as I say, we wanted to make contact with all our ratepayers as soon as possible, and so tried to make that phone call. So we apologise. We're aware of the way that you want to be communicated with, and so we'll maintain that.
It was clearly stated on my email.
Thank you. Do you have another question?
I
now,
do,
Elizabeth?
and my
Thank
other one is everybody will be, well, the councillors will know, I'm a dairy farmer, I live at the intersection of Cape Otway Road, Rail Station Road, and we have major issues with Cons Lane, and that's ongoing. And I've found in my notes, and we've had a council meeting with council officers on the 9th of April, and I did probably ambush you guys a bit, but I actually got the community involved. We had my brother's the CFA captain for Birregurra. He attended. Two further CFA officers attended. Local police officer Jason Schramm. Jason. Joe Schoonen. And we also had my neighbours that attended after I just did a small flyer. I didn't advertise it publicly. The Colac were happy to run an article. All right, so the point being, when one of your council officers, Brendan Walsh, was on board and he left the council on the 11th of August 2023, I have correspondence from him saying council was actually looking at it back then and had another survey done of Cons Lane by ratio, and they were awaiting that final report. I have the previous report the time before, which is only concerned with the bridges, still have no, and he alluded to the fact that I would actually be told of what that report said, never seen it. And the outcome of our meeting the other day, the community consensus was that we urgently wanted the speed limits reduced to 80 k's, and nothing has been forthcoming. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That concludes question time.
So, is the speed limit going to be reduced?
Oh, good question, sorry.
Good question, yeah.
Yes, thanks. General Manager Doug McNeil.
Through you, Mayor. Thanks for the question, Ms Ryan. We met a couple of weeks ago, and I think even though there was a larger number of people there than I anticipated, it was a very good meeting to understand the concerns of the residents about that intersection. There seemed to be broad agreement that residents were keen to see a speed reduction in Cons Lane, and I agreed at the time that we would go away and consider that suggestion. So that's something that we're still in the process of doing, and we'll get back in touch with you when we make further progress with that.
So, and I'll put a footnote on that, and a week later there was another incident and it crashed through our neighbour's fence, and they were lucky that further injuries weren't sustained. So that's on the council, and my brother, who's the CFA captain, actually said to council, you've been totally made aware that this is a major safety issue and it's all on you guys now.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes question time for today. Thank you to all the participants. We'll move on to item 5, petitions and joint letters, and I note there are none. We move now on to item 6, the planning and responsible authority decisions. Yeah, no problem. Move on to 6.1, the Planning Scheme Anomalies Amendment. I have a conflict of interest on two of these items that can be dealt with separately. I'll leave the room and throw over to Deputy Mayor to chair these 2 points, and I'll come in for the remainder of the anomalies. Yeah, I'll step out for the whole thing because we'll just deal with it. I'll come back at 6.2. Don't forget to get me.
So, councillors, is there any questions about item 6.1 to the officers? No, we have an officer's recommendation and we have a mover. Do I have a Councillor Potter? Do we have a seconder? Oh, moving the officer's recommendation.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation as my motion, please.
Please. Do we have a seconder to that? Councillor McCrickard? Councillor Potter?
Thanks, Chair. Look, I don't mean to say this lightly, but this is some housekeeping done by our planning officers. From time to time, they've identified some anomalies in the schemes. It is quite fitting and proper that they get addressed, tidied up and repaired. It's not practical to do one at a time. It's better to gather them all together over a period of time and run them in front of councillors all at once. I'd like to thank them for their work and yes, I'm moving this motion to tidy up these anomalies.
Any other councillors wish to speak? No? No, I'll put it to the vote. Councillor Potter, Councillor Dude, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Howard. That is 5-1, 5-0, I should say. Thank you. 5-0. The Mayor can come back in now. Can someone grab him?
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. We now move on to item 6.2, Development Plan DPO 9 Hillview Limonite Development Plan for approval. We have questions of officers. Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Mayor. I've just got an inquiry in relation to further information from the CFA. Do we know what we're waiting on and how detailed that may be, or what sort of effect that might have for us to consider?
Yep. Through you, Mayor. Yeah, so the CFA are just waiting on a minor detail, and that's to do with emergency exit and access on the eastern perimeter of the land lease development. So it's to be for all vehicles in the event of an emergency. So it would just be tweaking the wording on a notation on the plan itself.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll flag that I've got an alternative. Oh, sorry. Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Mayor. Just in relation to the proposal for drainage for the development, noting that we haven't got into the detailed design and so forth, but are officers confident from what they've seen so far that the proposal includes appropriate level of drainage, capture of that water to prevent flooding downstream or down the hill?
Through you, Mayor, from an engineering perspective, we're comfortable with the preliminary design conducted in terms of conveyance, storage and treatment of stormwater runoff generated by the development. The hydraulic and hydrologic assessments have been conducted in accordance with relevant guidelines, including Melbourne Water Guidelines, Australian Rainfall and Runoff 2019, as well as the Infrastructure Design Manual. Further detailed stormwater assessments will be undertaken as a part of detailed design phase.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of councillors? Councillor McCrickard.
Thank you, Mayor. There seems to, just from listening to residents around that area, there seems to be a lot of conjecture, a lot of worry around the Harris Road, Queen Street intersection. Is that a problem that you guys can see?
Sorry, Mayor. As per the traffic report presented, as a part of the lodgement of the DPO, the intersection of Harris Road and Queen Street was assessed via a software called CIDRA analysis software, which is widely recognized in Australia for assessing intersections for the capacity. And as per the assessment, it was revealed that the intersection is well within its capacity, and also factoring in 10 years post-construction traffic, the intersection is projected to still remain within its capacity. And in addition to that, the turn traffic and through traffic are not enough to warrant any intersection upgrade. So from our perspective, from a traffic perspective, the intersection would be adequate.
Thank you. And my other question is, when was that report, or the question that I've been asked, when was that report on the traffic management, when was that done?
Through you, Mayor, I believe it was done back in 2023, and there were multiple revisions to the report, but the original report was conducted back in 2023, as per my understanding.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? I have an alternative motion that I'd like to move. I'll read it out. Yeah. Oh, no, that's right. So, point 1, defers consideration of the development plan prepared under Schedule 9 to the development plan overlay for Hillview Limonite, as per attachment 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 to this report, for officers to request that the proponent make the following amendments to the development plan. Point 2, any changes required to those documents by the CFA. Point 3, the extension westwards of Baronia Way to provide vehicular access to the Colac Hill Road and to 45 Colac Hill Road as part of stage 1 of the development plan. Point 4, 2 vehicular access egress points being provided to the land from Colac Hill Road, in addition to the entrance to the land lease community, to the satisfaction of Council and the Department of Transport and Planning. And point 5, considers a development plan at a future council or planning committee meeting when either the requested changes have been made or the proponent has confirmed either that no revisions are being made or, in the event of some changes are made, the amended version of the development plan to be considered. Thank you. I guess, anyone have any questions on that?
Through you, Mayor, sorry, can I just clarify one thing? I don't think the numbering is quite worked on the motion, so I think points 2, 3 and 4 should actually be A, B and C. And point 5 should be point 2.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. Well, I won't read it all out again, but yeah, the changes A, B, C and the numbering, I apologise for that. Any questions on that from councillors? No? I'll call for a seconder. Seconded, Councillor Buchanan. As the mover, I've moved this, after listening to the community submissions, and when you read it in conjunction with the Schedule 9 that was only approved by Council a couple of years ago for the development plan and what it should include, and some of the things are to limit the westward movement of traffic along Harris Road, and the current proposal only allows to do that if Baroni Way is built. So that means there could be hundreds of homes built prior to that that don't limit the traffic onto Harris Road, and the only way to meet the criteria in Schedule 9 would be to build Baroni Way in Stage 1. And as we heard in submissions, the current, for one of the Wayuna estate, I think it's called, only has one entrance onto Harris Road. Very poorly designed, but it is what it is, it's there. And the residents, hundreds of homes and 1,000 odd people that live up there, there's only one entrance in and one entrance out. And if that entrance gets blocked, they're all trapped in. So the Baronia Way comes out onto Lavers Hill Road, and I think that should be part of Stage 1. Allows to go back and allows councillors and the community even to ask more questions about it. The development plan that was approved states clearly in Schedule 9 that there are to be 2 entrances onto the Colac Lavers Hill Road. It doesn't say one entrance and one private entrance into the land lease, and if that land lease never gets built, there's never a second entrance. So this is all in line with what was adopted a couple of years ago under Schedule 9, and that should be implemented in the plan. And we thank the people that gave submissions. They were excellent, excellent questions. And we've got to remember Schedule 9 was also done under a large amount of community consultation, and to go against that communication and the schedule would be to the folly of the council. Councillor Buchanan, seconder.
Look, I support Councillor Schramm's amendment. I think it's a terrific position for a new residential development. It's got everything going for it with the sporting facilities across the road, across the Gellibrand Road, but it is a rather difficult position to fit. It's not a greenfield site in that it's still got residential homes from Harris Road butting onto it, and it's got another one across a substantial sort of a drainage area going into Wayuna Strait. So I think there's been enough questions asked that we need to do a little bit more work on getting this particular residential development right. I think it's a great spot, big asset, it's heading in the right direction out that side of the road, but we need to do a little bit more work.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, look, we've been waiting a long time for this development. I think in my first year as on council 10 years ago, this was talked about. There's been a lot of work going to getting to where it is. There's been a lot of community consultation. I don't agree with the assessment in relation to not complying with Schedule 9. I think we are doing that, or it's proposed to do that. The Department of Transport and Planning are happy with where it is at the moment, and to impose a severe financial impost onto developers who haven't sold a block of land yet, I think this puts this whole project at risk. There's a housing shortage in Colac. We know that. There's a social and affordable housing need in Colac. There is a retirement village need in Colac as well. This shire, with some people, has a reputation of being blockers, of being slow, and here we are putting another hurdle in, potentially putting another hurdle in front of developers when we need this lot of houses to be built. The planning has been thorough so far. We're not into the detailed design, which can be used to tidy up a few things that may be identified down the track. But I don't support putting this project off any longer.
Thank you. Councillor
Uh,
Howard.
yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand Council Potter's concerns about delaying this project, but also I do understand it is quite a significant project for Colac, and to be quite honest, I'm not 100% understanding the implications of a couple of things. So I think deferring it, from my point of view, would give me a chance then to make a proper informed decision, and I think that's just a good due diligence. And if it's been going for this long, I think just a little bit more won't stop the development, it'll just make it more acceptable to the community.
Thanks, councillors. Councillor McCricker.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I understand Councillor Potter's reasoning, and the last thing that we want is to lose the availability of housing to our district. We're in urgent need. I am a little bit concerned with the road, the Baronia Drive, that needs to be extended out to the Lavis Hill Road. There are a few areas that we have got concerns about, minor concerns. Some might be a bit more than that. I think by deferring and having a councillor come onto the site and have a really good look again would be an advantage, I think.
Thank you. Just, just have a right to reply that you know, it has been a while, and we don't want to hold up development, but it's got to be done right. And we didn't, when we called for submissions on this, other than the proponent, we didn't have people support it. We had several people writing very thorough submissions against what would be what has been presented for adoption. We heard quite rightly about safety and access, and to allow another several hundred homes to go out there with limited access would be foolish. And you also think about, you know, there's a number of questions that we still need answered, and you know, with, like you say, not one block's been sold. You're right. I don't think one block's been purchased either by the developers. They're relying on a development plan to then purchase, but you know, that's the way business is done, of course. So I think you know, if this is supported, I think it'll give us time to ask questions and get it right, so we don't make planning mistakes of having a disaster up there with thousands of people trapped. So thank you. I will now call for a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Duke, Councillor McCricker, Councillor Schramm. All those against? Councillor Potter. The motion is carried 5-1. Thank you. We now move on to item 6.3 of planning, 205 Birregurra Road, a use and development of a dwelling. Are there any questions of officers? No. There's an officer recommendation in the report. Is anyone willing to move that recommendation. Councillor Howard, is it to be seconded? Councillor Potter. Councillor Howard is the mover. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the council planners for putting the report together, self-explanatory, and yeah, I fully support it.
Thank you. Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Mayor. I support it. Another example of something that we've brought into this chamber that doesn't need to be in here. Officers were happy signing off and issuing this permit, and we've made them prepare a report and bring it into the chamber when, in my view, unnecessarily.
Oh, sorry. Any other councillor wish to speak? No? Or reply? Oh, sorry. Councillor Buchanan. Sorry, jump the gun. We'll now put it to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Potter, Councillor Dew, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Shrams, carried 6-0. Now move on to item 6.4, planning. 75 McDonald's Road, Kawarran, use and development of dwelling. Any questions of officers? No. There's an officer recommendation in the report. Does anyone wish to move that? Councillor Howard, is it to be seconded? Councillor Potter. Councillor Howard as the mover.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Again, thank the planners for preparing this. I understand from the previous comments from Councillor Potter, I understand where he's coming from, but I also think it's a good look when we can bring applications into the public arena to show that we are doing due diligence. But yeah, I accept down the track we will probably have a look at the delegations again. So that's all I need to say.
Thanks, Councillor Potter. Seconder.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Support this. Same words as before.
Thank you. Any other councillor? No. We have a motion before us. Now put to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Potter, Councillor Dew, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Shrams, carried 6-0. Thank you. That concludes our planning. We move on to item 7, items for decision. 7.1, project adjustments, cash reserve transfers. Any questions of officers, councillors? No. Okay, so there's an officer recommendation in the report. Is it to be moved by anybody? Councillor Howard. Is it to be seconded? Councillor McCrickard. Councillor Howard.
Again, this report's put in here for transparency, and I thank the officers for preparing it.
Thank you. Councillor McCrickard, seconder. No. Any other councillor wish to speak? No. Or reply? No. We've got a motion before us, councillors. We'll now put to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Potter, Councillor Dew, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Shrams, carried 6-0. Now move on to 7.2, Colac Otway Shire 2025-26 draft budget endorsed for exhibition. Questions of officers? No questions. Okay. We have the officer recommendation in the report. Does anyone wish to move it? Councillor Shrams, anyone second it? Councillor Howard. I'd just like to thank the councillors and officers for preparing the budget. It's never easy. You're never going to please everybody, not even me probably, but you've come up with what we think is the best balance to go out, and what we're doing here is putting it out to the public so that they can have their view and discussion. So we encourage everybody out there to put in a submission about what you might like to see in it, what you might like not to see in it, and we wish everyone have their say on it because it can make all the difference at the end of the day. And again, thanks to everyone that's worked pretty hard over the last few months to get the draft budget to where it is. Thank you. Councillor Howard, seconder.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, it's going out for public exhibition, and I'm sure that we'll receive submissions on it, and I encourage people to put submissions in. Also indicate that the rating strategy, as the officers have said, closes today. We've had a fair few submissions on that, and they will form part of our deliberations going forward, and so I thank the public for actually putting their submissions in so that we can make these informed decisions.
Thank you. Any other councillor? No? And just in closing, I'd also like to thank the members of the public that all put in budget submissions to help form the budget, and as we see, there's a few of those community submissions hopefully being funded this year. So thank you again, everyone. I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Potter, Councillor Dew, Councillor McCricker, Councillor Schramms, carried 6-0. Thank you. Now move on to item 7.3, the Draft Road Management Plan 25-29, questions of officers. Councillor Howard.
Yes, could the relevant officer explain the importance of the road management plan for the public, please?
Through the Mayor, thank you. Thank you for the questions. Road management plan is our council plan to demonstrate that how council manage the road defects to comply with the Road Management Act. So road management plan is always how the risk management tool for council to manage the defects on road network.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. Thanks. Any other councillor? No, we have the officer recommendation in the report, councillors. Does anyone wish to move that? Councillor Howard, seconded. Councillor Potter. Thank you, Councillor Howard, as the mover.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, there's been a lot of work done for this road management plan. I do note that there is a section in there that talks about sealing unsealed roads, which gives us a good foundation to make sure that future strategies that we do, and I know it's in the draft budget to again look at a strategy around upgrading roads and sealing unsealed roads. So I'm pleased that this is the Road Management Act will help inform that and is one of the first steps around that requirement. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Potter.
Yeah,
sorry.
no worries. Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I endorse the comments by Councillor Howard as the mover, and look, this plan has to be reviewed by October, I think, and we've certainly done that and made a few changes and improvements to it. For my part, personally, over the last few months, I've heard some good reports about the way we're managing some of our gravel roads, especially in the north of the Shire, and this plan, the improvements of this plan will just further our endeavours in improving the condition of our roads.
Thank you. Any other councillor? No, I'd just like to thank the staff. I deferred this item so we could get more information, and the work that was done and was provided to councillors to see the difference was appreciated. Certainly makes our job easier to support things. I probably would have liked to have seen an extra point in there, but it's neither here nor there that we send this off to the state government so they could start fixing a few roads, because the Shire's roads aren't too bad over the whole, and the state roads are a disgrace, and probably not relevant to this, but I just wanted to say it. Thanks. We now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Potter, Councillor Dedu, Councillor McCricker, Councillor Schramm. It's carried 6-0. Thanks. Thank you. Now move on to item 7.4, the grey-headed flying fox management at Colac Botanic Gardens. Questions of officers? Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Mayor. I just have a question. I'm just wondering, for councils and for the community, if we could have a quick summary about what we've done so far, the cost of that, and whether it's been successful.
Yes, we started out at the end of 2019 with a dispersal plan. So tried to disperse that year, and in 2020, then they came back again. We tried the dispersal, came back again. Our problem was we couldn't get a year-round program to do it. The permit you get is you can't do the dispersal or any kind of disturbance to the animals during the breeding season. So again, we decided, okay, well, maybe our best option is to go to a nudging, which just would move them to a more favorable area within the botanical gardens. We tried that for 2 years. We got them close to the pines area where we wanted them, but we never actually got them into the pines area. So again, we did that for 2 years. The first 2 years cost us about $100,000 to do the dispersal per year, just because of the manpower, obviously overtime, getting the management plan in order. The second 2 years in dispersal, it was about $60,000 to get that to happen. Again, that wasn't successful. The main reason it isn't successful is because we, from advice from the experts at WSP and EcoShore, we can't get a permit to actually do the nudging or the making noise to move them to the preferred area for year round. They just tend to, they just come back to where their preferred spot is if we're not continually out there every morning trying to move them.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Crickard.
Thank you, Mayor. I've listened to, as we all have, many arguments about the bats in the gardens, and I understand the dilemma that the bats place people who want to use the botanical gardens because they are just magnificent. But the bottom line, is it just a matter of letting nature take its course?
In my opinion, I believe so, because we have tried for many years. We have spent a lot of money trying to move them. I've done this work up in the northern part of Australia. We've got experts in grey-headed flying foxes, 2 different firms to look at the issue. We've tried for 4 years straight to move them on. There's not really any other options. There's nowhere to disperse them to is our first problem, because again, who are we giving the problem to? Again, that puts us in some issues with reputation and taking it on them. We're still taking on the same thing somewhere else possibly because we don't know where we would put them. In the nudging, we never actually got them to where we wanted them because they are, as wild animals are, and as things do, they like a certain spot. Telling them that they should like this spot better just isn't what we can do. I think the way forward, yes, we need to monitor the trees. We've had an arborist come in. He's taken he's also been back 2 years after the initial assessments were done. He has said there wasn't any further damage. There is damage to the top of the trees where they are hanging. We have been told, no, don't fix those up, don't cut all that, because again, they'll just move further down the tree. So we will continue to do that. We've just recently had the ecologists come again and do bat counts. So we will do bat counts again every 12 months just to see where we're going in peak times. We also ourselves, the curator down there does monthly counts, so we're taking all that data. And again, if all of a sudden we see a drastic change in what's happening to the trees in the botanical gardens or anything like that, well then yes, we'll have to reassess.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Dadu.
Have there been other councils that have been successful in creating this to be a positive for their community where they can benefit in extra tourism because it's such a significant creature and such a rare animal. Has there been many other councils that have been able to turn that around to a positive for tourism?
Again, I'm not sure how many other councils have done that in a positive way, but I do believe that is where we should go. Again, they are a threatened species on the EPBC list. That makes it, that makes there a lot of potential to get tourism in, to see the bats. At the moment, we are managing the bats. They've been here for 10 years. We haven't had any issues with diseases or cleanliness. I think they are loud and they do pose problems. I understand that. But with the new management plan, we're putting in a new playground. Again, if we're trying to move the bats there, it's where we want to potentially put the playground. So I see it as very much a positive, and we can run with that angle, and that's the avenue we should take.
Thank you. Have the experts given the must be a microphone coming from
No.
have the experts given an indication at all about what number will become problematic where they need to be for not only for public amenity and health and safety, but for the bat's own protection? Where have they given what number? Like there's 12,000 there now, according to the reports. Does it 20,000 and they become, for such a small concentrated area, problem, and then what we must do then? Like what's maximum capacity before we've really got to reassess?
Well, again, we wouldn't really ever know maximum capacity. The maximum capacity would be determined by the food in the area, the amount of water in the area. So essentially the bats will determine what their maximum capacity is. It hasn't been discussed, and no one, we can't say because of what we have, or the experts haven't said either, that, oh, you will, at 50,000, you really should be looking into things. I think we would decide that ourselves. All of a sudden, if things are a mess, then we would need to put more money into, cleaning up the area, or then re-evaluating what we're doing. But I think there is no way to say, there isn't kind of a number that if you have this many, that we would consider anything. I think it's we just have to keep looking at it and going, okay, what are the impacts each year when we're doing the surveys, and also from the maintenance crews, what they're dealing with, what the public is seeing, how they are perceiving it. So I think that's how we would manage it and move forward.
Thanks. Any other questions? No? There's a recommendation in the officer's report. Do we have anyone wish to move that? Councillor Potter, seconded. Councillor McCrickard. Councillor Potter is the mover.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, I was going to say I'm happy to move this. I'm reluctant in a way because my personal view is like there to be no bats in the garden, but we've had a very, very good explanation about what has occurred, where we are now, and what can occur in the future if assessments show that the damage is growing, or there's health risks to the community and all the rest of it. So I thank the officer for that explanation and the report, and I'm moving this motion, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor McCrickard as the seconder.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I concur with Councillor Potter. We've got absolutely magnificent gardens, and it is a shame that this is occurring. I'm not sure how you change the course of nature. I'm not sure how we do that, but thank you for the work that you've done, and yes, I'll certainly support your recommendations.
Thanks. Any other councillor? No, I'll be voting against this, and I'll just give a brief reason why. That I think we should continue to try and stop the numbers getting out of control, and but I don't think the council and the ratepayers should be paying. I think it should be state or federal government. I could go on about silly examples if there was too many tiger snakes up the main street and we go, oh, they're native, just let them go and we'll just operate around them, those sort of things. But there comes a time, like the Botanic Gardens in Colac now is very hard to use, and do things. They're a beautiful animal, there's no doubt about it, but it just in the wrong place. And I think just pretty much walking away and monitoring, it's probably the right thing for council to do, to not spend the money, but I think we should be probably pushing the state government, I guess we still can, to fund ways of stopping the numbers getting out of control. Like they've increased every year. They've gone up, according to the official reports, by 2,000 in the last couple of months. And there's got to come a time where something needs to be done, and I'd rather see that just kept at smaller numbers somehow. But maybe that can't be done. But I don't support just sort of just on a monitoring and see how it goes, because it'll get out of control. And the majority of the public that I speak to, still want something done about the bats, but we can't afford to do everything. I accept that. Right, a reply, Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And perhaps in discussion, I might have added an extra point to ask the state government to fund some activities on our behalf, but I don't think it's fair that we're spending, a couple $100,000 so far for no result. If the state wants to help us, that is fantastic. But in the meantime, I don't think it should fall back on the ratepayer to be wasting money. And I trust the officers to keep an eye on things and bring it back to us if we really need to take different action.
Thank you, councillors. I have a recommendation. The motion before us now put to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Potter, Councillor Dadu, Councillor McCrickard. All those against? Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Schramm. Carried 4-2. Thanks, councillors. We'll now move on to item 7.5, declare public highway Stanway Drive. Questions of officers. Councillor Howard.
Yes, with the question time, there was raised a couple of things about if the road, if it becomes declared a highway, there may be some items that council needs to think about in regard to pedestrian safety and maybe upgrading a part of the road with a seal, or I can't remember exactly everything. If we do declare the road, those things can be considered at a later date, can they? That's to the officers.
So through you, Mayor, so yeah, that's part of the idea, is that once it is declared a council road, then it does become managed under our road management plan, and those things can be looked at and implemented by council.
Thank you. Any other questions? Just had a question just to clarify the word highway. It's obviously just terminology in a road, but can we just get some clarity that the highway, as we know, is obviously a thoroughfare dual lane between two, or towards a major city, but that's not what we're doing here, is it? It's just the terminology we use. Is that right?
It is just terminology, Mayor. It's how the Act expresses it. So it's simply a traditional word to describe a public road.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Buchanan.
If we adopt this, is it possible to build into that system where we get a walkway to make it safe for people walking down the side of the road? Just waiting for the conversation.
We're just getting some confirmation who to answer it. Thanks.
Again, yes, once the road is declared vested in council, then those things we can start to look at. That's right.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. We have an officer recommendation in the report. Do we have any movers of that, councillors? If there's no mover of it, the motion will lapse. Is there a mover? Councillor Potter?
Mayor,
I'll call for a seconder.
Oh, hang on a minute.
Oh, sorry, have you got a question?
No, I'm thinking about adding a point 4, which is why I was hesitating to move it.
Sorry. Yep.
I'm just wondering whether we can add a point that if this recommendation or this action is endorsed, that council look at implementing the safety measures that have been part of a submission from the community in relation to pedestrian safety for a start. Yeah, I'm happy with...
Isn't that what we both asked?
You happy with...
Yep, I am, thank you, Mayor. I think that makes it pretty clear that we have to consider some of those submission items that were well put to us at the submissions hearing.
Thank you. So you're moving that alternative motion?
Thanks, Mayor. I'll move that recommendation with the addition of point 4, which I'm happy to read out, Mayor, for the sake of the
just read out
minutes.
point 4, that's fine.
So in addition to the recommendation point 4, that council considers the safety measures that have been suggested by the community in the submission process.
Thanks, Councillor Potter. Have an alternative motion moved, councillors? Is it to be seconded? Councillor Dadoud? Councillor Potter is the mover.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, this issue has been around for some time, and I'm pleased that council have got to this position to resolve the situation in Keringal Drive. I note we had two very well thought out and careful submissions through the submission process that raised not just some safety measures that would be or should be considered and probably required, but a couple of other things as well. I hope they are looked at and implemented where possible, but this just needs to be done as soon as possible in relation to community safety, especially in light of emergency situations, mainly being a bushfire. So I thank the work of the officers to get it to this point. I thank the local community, and I'm happy to move this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Dadoud as the seconder. Thank you.
I appreciate Councillor Potter's addition because I believe it allows us an opportunity to investigate all the safety concerns that have been brought forward, and I appreciate the community for bringing that forward so that we can investigate them thoroughly, and I hope that this will get the best result as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? No? Councillor Potter, right, a reply?
Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, councillors. Now have the motion before us. We'll now put to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Potter, Councillor Dadoud, Councillor McRegard, Councillor Schramm. Carried 6-0. Thank you. We'll now move on to items for noting. Oh, no, we don't, sorry. 7.6, Revocation Instrument of Authorisation, Planning Environment Act. Any questions of officers on this? No questions? There's a officer recommendation in the report. Is it to be moved by any councillors? Councillor Howard, seconded. Councillor Potter. Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's just a procedural thing, so I think it's self-explanatory.
Thank you, Councillor Potter.
Ditto.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? No, we have the motion before us. We'll now put to vote. All those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Potter, Councillor Dew, Councillor McCrea, Councillor Schramm. Carried 6-0. Thank you. We now move on to item number 8, items for noting. The purpose of this report is to submit to council the election report. Oh, sorry, this is 8.1. The purpose of this report is to submit to council the election report prepared by the Victorian Electoral Commission on the 2024 Colac Otway Shire general elections. Just hold on. Sorry. Thanks, councillors. Any questions of officers? No. We have the recommendation. Sorry, I just lost my spot. We have the recommendation in the report as wish to be moved. Councillor Howard, seconded. Councillor Buchanan, thank you. We'll now put it to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Potter, Councillor Dew, Councillor McCrea, Councillor Schramm. Carried 6-0. We now move on to item 8.2, the Audit and Risk Committee unconfirmed minutes. The purpose of this report is to provide the information of the Colac Otway Shire Audit and Risk Committee unconfirmed minutes dated 13th of March 2025. Any questions? No. We have a recommendation in the report. Does it wish to be moved by anyone? Councillor Howard, seconded. Councillor Schramm. Councillor Howard.
Just a quick note that, again, the Audit and Risk Committee is a very important advisory committee to Council, and for my dealings with it as a member, it's a very effective one. So I endorse the minutes.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? No. Now put a motion to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Potter, Councillor Dew, Councillor McCrea, Councillor Schramm. Carried 6-0. We now move on to item 8.3, report of informal meetings of councillors. The purpose of this report is to inform on the meetings of councillors. It does not require a formal decision of council. But are there any questions? No. Thank you. Thanks. We now move to urgent business. And I understand Councillor Howard has the urgent business.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move an urgent business item relating to the resignation of the CEO and the need to appoint an interim CEO.
Yeah.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Yeah, we'll now put it to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Potter, Councillor Dew, Councillor McCrea, Councillor Schramm. Carried 6-0. Thank you. We now move to the urgent business motion for Councillor Howard.
Right, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the following recommendation. that Council accept the resignation of Miss Anne Howard, CEO, Colac Otway Shire Council, and thank her for years of dedicated service. 2, appoint Mr Andrew Tenney as Acting CEO commencing on Monday 5th of May for a period of up to 8 weeks pending appointment of an interim CEO within that time frame. Number 3, authorise the administration to advertise for a recruitment agent to manage the process of recruiting the CEO. Number 4, note that it is intended Council will appoint an interim CEO at its meeting May 2025 to support Council through until the appointment and commencement of a substantive CEO, likely in the latter half of this calendar year. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before I call for a seconder, just note that Andrew Tenney's declared a conflict of interest on this matter. Is it to be seconded? Councillor McCrick, Councillor Howard as the mover.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Again, we thank Anne for her time as CEO and wish her well at Darebin, and hopefully we can find a CEO of good calibre that can take us through the next few years.
Thank you. Councillor McCrick, seconder.
No, just to follow up exactly what Councillor Howard has said. Congratulations to Anne, and thank you for the work that you've done, and we look forward to working with you, Andrew, in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor? Councillor Buchanan.
I'd just like to thank CEO Anne for her time here, and I'll never forget the rigorous training session. Didn't know whether I'd stepped into hell or not during that training period for 4 to 5 months. So good luck, Darebin Shire.
Thank you. Any other councillor? Councillor Deduge.
I would like to say how incredibly knowledgeable and such a powerhouse Anne is, and it's been such an honour to start my journey with you, and yeah, I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll add my little bit of thanks to the CEO. I've worked closely with Anne, and you have to as a mayor, as you know, Mayor, work closely with the CEO, but I worked closely with Anne as a councillor. We didn't always agree, but nobody knew that. We did that behind closed doors, as should be done. And, you know, I think over time, Anne's worth to this Shire will become more and more evident. If I can just relate one story to illustrate Anne's talent. When she came on board the Shire, we were selling some land in Bruce Street, and that sale had got to a break-even position for council. That is, we were going to do all this work, sell all this land, and not end coming out with a cent profit. Anne paused it. She single-handedly rejigged it, and we got $1.6 million. Thank you, Anne. Sorry, $2 million. 2.6, that's even better. Well done. So I think that was in early days, and that showed her worth. You know, we went through a stage where we had one engineer on staff. There was a little period where I think we didn't have any. We've got 3 now. Anne's made some tough calls in relation to staff, calls that needed to be done. I've seen other CEOs that couldn't make those calls. So, as I said, I think her worth will become more and more recognised down the track, unfortunately. Good luck in Darebin. Clearly, your experience and knowledge and work ethic has been recognised by a bigger, larger Shire. I think there's about 1,000 employees there or something. So, good luck with that. And thank you for all you did.
Thank you. Yes, again, thanks to Anne for your service, and just note on there that she's still here till Friday, so you've got a few more days. And congratulations to Andrew. You look a bit nervous there, but it'll be okay. And yeah, thanks. Right, a reply to Councillor Howard? No. Now put the motion to a vote. Councillors, all those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Potter, Councillor Dews, Councillor McCreary, Councillor Schramms. Carried 6-0. Thanks, councillors. We'll now move on to point 10.1, the delegate reports and notice of motions. Notice of motion from Councillor Buchanan. Are there any questions on that? No. Councillor Buchanan, would you like to move your motion?
Yes, I'd like to move the following motion, that Council, number 1, remove the following words from page 6 of Colac Otway Shire Council's Climate Change Action Plan under the heading Colac Otway Community Emissions Profile, that the largest source of emissions in the Shire was from agriculture, which accounted for 48% of the total emissions. Item 2, develop a plan to provide a small grant program that allocates funds to assist farmers to undertake tree planting with potential for partnerships with community-based not-for-profit organisations. Item 3, reallocate funds previously set aside to purchase carbon offsets to fund any grant program established under point 2, beginning from 2025-26 financial year.
Through Mr Mayor, can I have a question to Councillor Buchanan?
Yes.
Councillor Buchanan, would you consider, I think what you read out and what's up on the screen in point 2, it says funds to assist farmers or other relevant groups. Are you happy with that wording as highlighted?
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that, Councillor Howard. It doesn't hurt to broaden the spectrum of those grants.
Thank you. Is it to be seconded? Councillor Howard. Councillor Buchanan is the mover.
Thank you very much for allowing me to put that motion. I guess I know it's a little bit controversial with what was put up on the Climate Action Plan, but I don't think that talking about the percentage of blame for emissions has a lot to do with the good work we can do out there in the community with this money. And I'd like to, for you people to consider that, the other councillors to consider this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Howard as the seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I know people have views one way or the other on taking out the 48% reference to that. I think it's what we've got to do. This is a climate action plan, and the means an action plan. It's not an action report. And if taking out the reference to the 48% brings one of our larger groups into helping us implement this action plan, and that's why I wanted to add the other relevant groups in there, such as land care, etc., etc. So I know people think it's a negative, and I can see their point of view, but I hope other people can have an open mind and see my point of view, that I actually want the farming and agricultural community to embrace this action plan, and if that helps, then it's going to be a win-win and a positive. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I think it is a fact that agriculture does contribute to the emissions issue, and this figure has been used to malign farmers, unfortunately, who do recognise their contribution to the emissions profile, or most of them do, and are doing some great work in relation to carbon sequestration in soil, not just the planting of trees, but the use of different grasses. There's slowly the introduction of seaweed into cattle feed, which will really reduce emissions from cattle. I'd love to see a seaweed farm and factory in this Shire. And I know some farmers are doing some excellent work with adjusting their feed and getting some great results with reduction of emissions from their cattle, similar to what you can get by introducing seaweed. So most farmers are active in this space trying to reduce their emissions, and whilst I've hummed and hawed over supporting this, I think removing that figure from our plan perhaps takes away pointing the finger at farmers when all of us have a role to play in this, and farmers are doing their fair share. I think perhaps it doesn't go far enough in relation to funding other programs apart from just tree planting. But after humming and hawing, I think it is a motion that I'll support.
Thanks, Councillor. Any other councillor? Councillor Deduge.
I would like to note that our shire is a large portion of farmland, which contributes to the large percentage of emissions that are stated in the table. It also creates the biggest potential for positive change, but I do now see, after this conversation, that how that can feel off-putting to some groups. Because of this, I would like to remove the emissions table in its entirety. So I would like to put in an amendment for that. So I would like to amend that the possibility that we could remove the emissions table in its entirety rather than just the 1 point on farmland. Also to a lower point, point 2, since farmland is such a large portion of our shire, I do see the value in investing in sustainability. I believe there are many more effective ways to create positive change than just tree planting, and I'd love to leave that to the farmers or the groups to support, who support farmers, to submit their best ideas so that we can see the best outcome. Because of that, I would also like to add a second amendment to point 2 to add the following words after tree planting to include other environmental initiatives, please.
Yeah, I'm assuming you've just moved the amendment.
Both. Yes.
Yes.
Two.
Is the amendment to be seconded?
Okay, yeah.
If we don't have a second to the amendment, sorry? Oh, sorry, Councillor McCrickard seconds that. As the mover of the amendment. Yeah. Councillor Deduge.
I do see how there can be a benefit in talking more about potentials rather than the issues, and if there is a chance that talking about the ratios of emissions is putting some groups off being part of the positive change, I would like to remove the entire table. And also with tree planting, I feel like there's many other opportunities to be able to create positive change, and I would like to see what comes out in applications. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCrickard, as the seconder of the amendment. Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak on the amendment? No, I'll now put it to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Deduge, Councillor McCrickard. All those against? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Schramm. The amendment is split, but in good faith, I will vote in favour of it with a casting vote and carry it into the substantial motion. It's carried. So now it becomes part of the motion. Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Howard, Councillor Potter have already spoken on it. Does any other councillor wish to speak on it? No? Sorry? Oh, no, I've been chasing him all day. So if write a reply to Councillor Buchanan. Right of reply.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I thank Councillor Deduge for her second motion, another motion, but I think that the pool of money is not that huge, and I think to stretch it further than tree planting is probably going to pull it apart a little bit. And if we start trying to share that small pool with too many other initiatives, and I know exactly what she was meaning because we did speak about, you know, saving potable water and maybe extending that to dams, but there's a limit to how much that small amount of money can service regarding grants. And I think it's probably, most farmers are pretty amenable to planting trees as an initiative, and I'd prefer to leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. No, that's all right. So we have a motion before us. Council now put to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Potter, Councillor McCricker, Councillor Schramm. All those against? Councillor Douche, carried 5-1. Thanks, councillors. We'll now move on to item 10.2, notice of motion. Yeah, just to be clear, we haven't had time, they're incorporating the amendment into the substantive motion. So, yes.
It got carried.
Yes, it got.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, Chrissy. So we're on to item 10.2, notice of motion, community awards. Any questions of officers? No. I'll move a motion with a slight change into point 2 that reviews the community award categories by the end of August 2025 instead of June.
Mayor, I wasn't aware of what I was voting on before. Voting on the suggesting that we go with the alternative motion, just the original one.
But the original one became the amended substantive motion. So the emissions table got removed. We're all good, thank you. Yes, sorry, I was moving a notice of motion with the change in point 2 to the end of August 2025. Does anyone second that? Councillor Buchanan. As a mover of this, for many years, the community held the community awards on the citizenship ceremony on Australia Day, and it was a big occasion. We had a lot of people there to introduce our newest Australians and those that had served our community well. I think in the past few years that had been changed to try and hold the community award events at other venues or events throughout the Shire that hadn't necessarily been that successful, and not a great event, to be honest. So this is just to go back to how we were. It's certainly, some of the emails I've received, it hasn't been designed to cause offence or anything. It's just to have things how we used to. And I do understand that the topic of the date of Australia Day can be quite emotive for a lot of people, and people have got pretty strong opinions on it. I'm not here to argue for or against any of those things, but to have the community awards again on the citizenship ceremony, and it's usually a public holiday, so a lot of people can attend, and we've had a lot of great events in the past, and I think one of the big recent ones was at BIAC, which was fantastic. Colac always draws a crowd in the square or down by the lake. We hope if this is successful that community groups and organisations might put in for it, And social media, as people that know me, I absolutely hate it. I think it's just the absolute sewage way to the biggest cesspool in the world. And if any comments around Australia Day, if you've got a strong opinion either for or against it, you know, I'd just ask you not to comment at all, because no one, you know, needs that. You know, for or against, just try and be respectful, and that's not what this motion's about, and certainly not to create divide in our community. So hopefully, you know, it gets supported, and that's the intent of it. And it's been community driven. I've had, you know, an overwhelming number of people want to have the community awards as we used to on the citizenship ceremony days on Australia Day. Thank you. Councillor Buchanan, seconder.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of emotion, as Mayor Schramm said about that, but it's the date set by our government, and I think we should be thinking about the big picture and sticking with what the government recommends. The emotion part of things, I think, to feel guilt about something and be forced into making decisions on a particular day to celebrate our country is not the way to do it. I think guilt doesn't send us in the right direction. We've got to get together and celebrate the day as it's meant to be, as Aussies, all around one flag.
Thanks, Councillor Buchanan. Just 2 seconds before I get to you, Mick. Did you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, Smith. I just had one question. Does number 3 and 4 of your notice of motion restrict events at Apollo Bay?
No, it's for expression of interest, and it's meant to, so anywhere in the Shire, from any community groups and things. But the last point where that's got like Lake Colac is pretty much if we don't get an expression of interest, that's where the Shire will look at hosting the citizenship ceremony if possible. Thanks, Councillor McCrickard.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Look, with the greatest respect to yourself and to Councillor Buchanan, I'd like to oppose point 1 and point 3 of the notice of motion. Look, to me, it's a divisive. The day has become very divisive, and one of the contributing factors, I guess, of standing for council, and we've all got our own areas of passion, but for me, it was always about standing up for minority groups. If we can leave the government ruling alone for a moment and just concentrate on our local community, we have a group of Indigenous people in Colac, Colac and District, the whole Shire, somewhere between 200 and 300 people. And a number of them feel quite disengaged, isolated around this topic. I just think that Councillor Buchanan is very, very correct in saying we shouldn't feel guilt, and I agree with him entirely. But I think we should feel some type of empathy and some type of compassion for the trauma that's been passed down over the generations. And I've worked with our Indigenous young people in Colac, and I think just at our school in Colac, for young people who are traumatised, over 20% are Indigenous. And that says something about their inability to connect and be part of mainstream education. That's a bit of a long bow, I know, but I just feel that a date that we could establish that would be meaningful, and a date that would be cooperative and really engaging for all parts of our community would be a better option. But again, I just want to say that I know that I probably am on the minority with my opinion, but I feel very strongly about it. And again, the greatest respect to fellow councillors who have alternative views. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McGregor. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Potter?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, council has thus far worked towards fostering an inclusive community spirit where we can reflect our collective identity as a multicultural society. We want to be a region that promotes meaningful, respectful events and ceremonies that are inclusive for all. Now, I went to an Australia Day ceremony in Memorial Square a few years ago, and there was a choir of kids singing I Still Call Australia Home. They were Caucasian children, African children, Asian children. It was beautiful. There was a group missing. It wasn't inclusive. It was meant to be, but we have to recognise that there is a section of this community that can't celebrate Australia on the 26th of January. And I really think we have to bear that in mind. I'm all for us celebrating Australia. We should be. Let's pick another day, Mayor, to do that. Let's hold a community event on another day where everyone can come along. This year we had the citizenship ceremony on the 23rd of January, I think, not on the 26th. Some of the signs behind moving the Citizen Awards were because they weren't popular with all the community on the 26th day of January. In fact, there was, I think there was an award winner who didn't want the award because it was awarded on that day. So we haven't consulted the community. If we're going to go on the community submissions that we've got received so far, we've had some very sensible, well thought out articulations of why we shouldn't be doing this on the 26th of January. So, Mayor, I support an event to celebrate Australia. Let's pick another day and make it all inclusive. And let's write to the government and ask them to consider that the day that we celebrate Australia as a whole nation be changed to a different day.
Thank you. Any other councillor? Councillor Douche?
I agree with this motion that we should celebrate Australia Day, but it needs to be done with unity. The federal government gives councils the authority to listen to the community when it comes to the date that we celebrate. We surveyed our community and half of our community does want to celebrate on another day. We are also lucky enough to speak with the local Aboriginal leaders last week who spoke about how celebrating on the 26th put our Indigenous population at risk of harm. To ignore our extensive community consultation and our Indigenous community leaders would be questionable on our part, to say the least, particularly as it is a celebration of uni. I do not believe that the 26th is important to many, if any. Even this year, the ceremony date, as Councillor Potter mentioned, was changed without issue. I move that the celebration and the ceremony to be moved to the floating last weekend of January as a sign that we listen to our community and endeavour to celebrate unity together as Australians.
Was that just a speech or?
No, it's an amendment that I would like to add.
So you'd like to move an amendment?
Yes, please.
It says...
Notes that the federal government recommends celebrating within the date range of the 23rd to the 29th of January. So amending point 1 to hold the citizenship ceremony and community awards on the last weekend of January.
Thanks, Councillor Douche. I rule that the amendment's hostile to the original, as the original calls it on to host it on Australia Day, set by the federal government, so that's a public holiday that coincides to be able to have an event. So I rule it out of order. Thank you. So any other councillor, have you spoken? You want to speak? No. No, I'll just have write a reply that just a couple of things that were said that, you know, we've had well thought out submissions. You know, there was, I think, a survey a while ago that, you know, was pretty split, but the submissions or emails that we've got, I don't think calling myself an uneducated buffoon racist is a well thought out or a great argument to have, Councillor Potter. And that's what I mean. You can have your opinion, but the people that support it, I find, have been fairly respectful. It's just the people that don't, that haven't been respectful. And I'd just like to call out that you said that if people talk about January the 26th and it doesn't have meaning to many, I argue that the people that have been sworn in as new Australians on the 26th of January to be in the luckiest country and the greatest country in the world, it means a hell of a lot to them. And I just wanted to put that point of view across. We have a motion before us, councillors. I will now put to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Howard, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Schramm, all those against? Councillor Potter, Councillor Dudu, Councillor McCrickard. The vote is split 3-3. I'll use my casting vote in favour. It's carried 4-3. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move to close the meeting. Thank you, councillors. Thank you to our CEO for our final meeting, and we do wish you all the best again. I'd like to thank everyone that turned up and submitted questions, and thank you to our gallery. This concludes the council meeting of the Colac Otway Shire. I declare this meeting closed.